Hello and welcome to this Make with Mandy tutorial where I'm going to be showing you how to make this handy phone lanyard. So I'm going to show you how to make the small one, which is this wrist lanyard, and I'm also going to give you the instructions on how to make the much longer lanyard. So recently there's been a lot of phone thefts in the area that I live in, and so I just wanted to do something to safeguard myself and make something funky and cool, as well as keeping my phone safe. We're going to need these. This is how you actually attach this to your phone. So I'm going to put the links to everything that I've bought on the comments below, and yeah, this slips into your phone case so that you can then attach that to your phone and wear that around your wrist. So you've always got your phone easy to access no matter where you are. Okay, so other things that you're going to need is you're going to need a pair of sharp scissors. Smaller ones are better because you're going to be doing some fiddly cutting. A ruler and a pen or a pencil. We need some card, which is of a reasonable strength. I'm using this from our friends at Amazon when we get a delivery, and you'll need something to use as a circle template. So I've just got a little glass here, which is around 7 centimeters in diameter. You'll also need your macrame thread. So again, I bought these off Amazon and I'll pop the links into the comment. This is a 3mm cotton macrame cord, and I've got 3 different colours here. If you are going to make the long macrame lanyard, then I would recommend getting some hair bubbles or some elastic bands, because it will help you to just keep some of the cords are going to be really long, so then you can just wrap them up with this and keep them out of the way. You'll also need these lobster clasps, are what they're called. You can get them in a variety of sizes. I will put a link in the comments to the ones that I've chosen. These do come in various different colours as well, so you can get them in silver, gunmetal or black as well, and even some that are painted in different colours, but I've gone for a nice sort of gold colour. Okay, now in terms of measurements of what you need, this lanyard that I've made here finishes up at around 130 centimetres, which is quite a long lanyard, but I like that length because it enables me to be able to put my phone into my pocket. This could also double up as a bag strap if you wanted to. And phone lanyards tend to range between 110 and 130 centimetres, so I've gone for the longest length here. Now, in order to make this, you're going to need 430 centimetres of each of your colours, and then you'll need another thread which is 300 centimetres of a single colour. In this case I'm going to use the white, and then you need to choose what colour you want your tops of your lanyards to be, and you need 2 pieces at 50 centimetres for that. And then if we're going to make the short one, which is what I'm going to show you to make today, we need 115 centimetres of each of your 3 colours. So let's start with this ochre colour here that I'm going to use. And then the way that I like to do this is I cut one, and then I just use that as a template to cut the others. So next up I'm going to do my grey. And then because this technique involves 7 yarns, you need a 4th yarn here, which in this case needs to be 67 centimetres. I'm using the ecru colour here because I have a lot of that one, so it helps me to not have too much waste. And then I need to decide what colour I want my top sections to be. I think I'm going to go with the ochre colour here. And so I need 2 of those at 50 centimetres. put these to one side for now, and let's make our little, I'm going to call this a jig. This is our template that we need to actually be able to create our macrame. So I'm calling this macrame, but really that isn't its technical name. This is almost like French knitting that we used to do when we were children. So draw around your template here, and I'm using a glass that was around 7 centimeters in diameter. This doesn't have to be perfect by any stretch of the imagination. Obviously the thicker your card, the harder it's going to be for you to cut out. The thicker it is, the sort of more stability you'll have, particularly when you're doing the longer one. You'll be using it for quite a long time, so you sort of do want it to be relatively sturdy. Now we're going to split this into 8 sections, and what we're trying to end up with is something that looks like this. So we sort of need to find this middle, approximate middle of this item. So I'm just sort of eyeballing it here, but it'll just help if you have a bit of an idea of where the centre is. So draw one line all the way down the middle, and then rotate that round 90 degrees and draw another line, and then rotate that round again and split that section into half, and then split the other section into half. And there you have it. Now what we want to do is we're going to just cut into this by around, let's see how much that is. Do a cut that's no more than 2 centimeters. So in each of these little sections, you need to just make a little cut. It's almost like you've got a little pizza type thing here. Maybe that's what we can call this. It doesn't really have a name. And then we need to make a hole in the middle. So using the sharp point of my scissors, I've literally just stuck those in and just been able to just twiddle that around, and it's made a hole. So there you go. You've now got this piece which is cut all the way around, and this is what you're going to use to make your lanyard. Once you have all of that, you need to take your 3 longest pieces that you've cut of your yarn and take one of your lobster clasps. Now these have got a little ring at the bottom here, and I want you to thread 3 of your loose ends through that lobster clasp like this. It can be a little bit fiddly. And then I want you to pull the yarns through so that the lobster clasp is approximately in the middle. Pull the edges together and then find that centre. Once you've threaded those all through, then take your second longest bit, so that was the one that was the single coloured yarn, line it up with the one end of your yarns, and then with your hands slowly slide it up until you get to where your clasp is, and then thread it through the clasp. So as you can see, this is quite short, but it'll all make sense in a while. Make sure that your threads are all even. Mine are a little bit off there, so just pull it through. And so everything should now be lined up at the end, and you've got this short piece which is just hanging through on one side. Now grab one of your shortest pieces, so in my case it's the yellow one, and we're going to start by making our little wrap at the top of our lanyard. So you can see there, that's really nice and neat, and everything is contained all within the wrap, and there's no loose ends. So once you've threaded your medium-sized thread through and you've checked that all of your ends are a similar length, take your shortest threads and make a loop. So you just need one of the short threads to begin with. Make a loop, so you're basically folding over around 5 centimeters of yarn, and taking that loop, with the loop facing down towards the long ends of your lanyard, position it so that your loose end is just a little bit over the tip there. And we're going to start wrapping this long end round tightly until we feel like we've got enough to make it look how you want it to look. And then what you do is you just pull this through your loop there, take hold of the first short end that you left at the top and pull, and that will then pull everything back in towards your lanyard. So you have a really nice neat finish and you can't see any knots or anything. So that's created a nice knot inside this, and that's how you start to make your wrap for the top of your lanyard. What you need to do is, as close as you possibly can without cutting anything that you shouldn't, trim off these ends, and they should just stay in there and be secured now. There you go. Now what we need to do is taking all of your yarns from the long ends and just feed them through your pizza. This might be a little bit fiddly. Or you can also cut the extra yarn that you threaded in. Just make sure you trim that one off as well. So this was the medium-sized yarn, our 7th string. Just thread that through until you get to your stop. Now this is how we're going to start. Take one cord at a time and thread it over and through each of these little slices that you made. It doesn't really matter exactly what order because you're going to have an odd number of the white anyway, so you can't ensure that they're never next to each other. So as you can see, I've threaded them into each of the gaps, and then there's one gap left spare here. What you need to do is you keep your gap up at the top and you choose the yarn that is 3 away from the gap. So here's my gap, and I'm going to move the yarn that is 1, 2, 3 away up into the gap. And then I rotate my wheel round so the gap is at the top again, and I choose the yarn that is 3 away and I've put it into the gap. I've moved my gap up to the top and I choose the yarn that is 3 away into the gap. The gap goes at the top, and then I choose the yarn 1, 2, 3 and I move it into the gap. So this is a very repetitive, continuous thing which you will keep on doing now. And you just need to make sure that as you're doing it, that the strings remain untangled. So periodically, just have a little look at the strings and just make sure that they're not getting too tangled up. If you're doing the longer lanyard, you really will benefit from having those air bubbles just to secure your yarns and keep them out of the way. As you can see, it's starting to build up a bit of bulk on here. So then you just pull this through. And if I just keep going for a little bit longer, I'm going to be able to start to show you that the chain of this knitting is actually forming on the underside of my disc. So you pull it through when you get quite a bit there at the top, and then if I just turn that over, you can start to see that this is actually forming a really lovely pattern underneath. So turning it back round, I put my gap up to the top, 1, 2, 3, and then I move that yarn into that space. And then 1, 2, 3. And so now we're just going to keep going until we get to a point that we feel like our wrist lanyard is long enough, and then we'll come back and we can finish it the way that we started. Now, if at any point you feel like you lost concentration and actually you might have not counted the yarns right, or maybe you didn't move it to the right spot, you can always just undo where you've come from. This is quite easy to undo. So here you can see I've been going only for a few minutes and I've already got a really nice chain and the pattern's starting to form and the colours sit all really nicely together. This is a really easy thing that you can do with kids. The most fiddliest bit is probably starting and finishing and just keeping the yarns from not tangling up, but honestly I think it's really nice and it's a very good sort of meditative thing that you can do as well. Easy to take with you somewhere if you want to as well. So just keep going until you are getting towards the end of your yarns. Don't know about you, but I'm getting pretty dizzy here. But it's been really nice. I hope you've had a nice time doing this. It's really mindful and meditative, and it's easy and rewarding. But as you can see, my pizza wheel's sort of getting a little bit bendy, and that's because the card that I've used here is like a corrugated card, so actually a flat card would be better because it will retain its sturdiness a bit better, but this is just using up stuff that I already had. And you want to leave enough so that you can create that's probably about it. Okay, I'm going to stop there. So now my wrist lanyard, the macrame portion is about 28 centimetres, not including the wrap and the lobster clasp. That comes up to 33 centimetres until I put the next end on. So when you've got to a good length, then take out all of your strings and just holding on to the top of your macrame tight, just pull it out of its pizza wheel. And then taking your second lobster clasp, thread each of these loose ends through. So this will be a little bit harder here because when you started, you had half the amount of threads to thread through, whereas then we doubled them over, so now you've got all of these threads to go through. So when you buy your lobster clasp, you need to make sure that the ring is big enough to allow you to be able to do that. Now slide your ring up just a little bit, so you've got just a bit of yarn there, probably like just less than an inch, so a gap of yarn, and then your macrame starts, and just fold all of those yarns back on each other. And then take your short piece that you have left over from the beginning and create a loop like we did before. So it's around 5 centimeters doubled over. Place the loop facing downwards to the long part of your lanyard. Hold it in your left hand and with your right hand start wrapping the top of your lanyard tightly, and keep going until you have about the same measurement as you did on the end that you started. Then when you're happy with that, thread your loose end through the loop, let go of that, and then from the top, pull the top thread through, pulling that tight so that as much of that knot is hidden under there. And then very carefully and neatly trim your loose threads as much as you possibly can, as close to the actual piece. So I've got a little bit here to trim. This is why it's quite handy having smaller scissors, because with the larger ones you might end up just cutting off a little bit of the bits that you actually wanted. And if you just trim these all back. There we go. And then you should just be able to, with your scissors, you can just gently tuck these into the wrap. Just be a little bit careful because these scissors ends are sharp. Just want to neaten that up and try and get them as tucked up as you possibly can. And there you have it, your wrist lanyard. If you're not sure how to put this into your phone case, so I've just detached the lobster clasps from this attachment strip. Place that through the charging port hole of your phone case, and then take your phone and just slide it back into its case here. There we go, and that will then just make that secure, and then you attach the lobster clasps back onto there. And then there you have it. You've got your little nifty wrist lanyard. So now whenever you're looking for your phone, or if you're out and about and you kind of just want to make sure that it's secure in your pocket or anything, or maybe you even just want to take one end and you can attach that into like a bag if you've got a little clasp somewhere. So then it's always to hand and you'll find it very easy to be able to find it, and you'll also feel a little bit more secure when you're out and about. I hope you've enjoyed that tutorial. I've certainly really enjoyed making my phone lanyards, and I look forward to seeing what you make. So yeah, please do share that with me. You can tag me on Instagram at Make with Mandy, or put a little note in the comments. I'd love to see how you get on.